Welcome everybody to Changing of the Hip Hop Guards podcast. I'm your host, the journalist Sincere. That's my partner, Uncle E. And tonight we have the pleasure of speaking with BX MC Crotona P. Thank you so much for joining us this evening.
Peace, brothers. Thank you for having me.
No doubt. We're going to take it back just a little bit and then work our way up to your recent project, Killer Instinct. But before we do that, if we can take it back just a little bit, tell everybody where you were born and raised.
The Bronx, New York, Crotona Ave, East 179th Street. That's where I was raised most of my life. I was born in the prospect section of the Bronx, but then we moved pretty quick. When I was about maybe 2 years old, we moved to Crotona, and I've been there. I was there till about 30, 31, 32, and then I moved up to Rochester, New York. I've been here for about 12 years now.
Dope. What was a day in the life like for Crotona P teenage years growing up in the BX?
Um, well, I dropped out pretty early from school, you know what I mean? But it was pretty much just like trying to work like little, BS jobs here and there, trying to make ends meet, you know what I'm saying, during my teenage years, because that was around the time my pops left my mom's. We didn't have much in the house, like to eat and stuff like that. So, I see my mom struggling. So I said I could either go to school and try to get an education, or I could get out there and get this money and try to help my moms and my sister and try to, to help feed the family. So I chose that route. Maybe it wasn't the smartest route, but that's what I did, you know what I mean? So my teenage years, it was pretty cool, but just out there pretty much working, trying to get money in different types of jobs. From time to time, petty hustling, selling bud here and there, throughout teenage years.
So while you're doing all of that and maneuvering through the streets of the Bronx, man, at what point in time did you start really paying attention to when it came to hip hop?
To be honest with you, it started pretty early. It started for me, not maybe as early as other people, but I started around maybe 13. I think that was around the time the Cypress Hills came out. When Cypress Hills came out,
Okay.
that's I heard the music and I heard the Latin influence, being that I'm Puerto Rican myself. So I heard the Latin influence, and it did something to me. You know what I mean? And it made me want to listen more and start looking into different artists. And then I ran and never really caught the bug to write. I would freestyle with my homies in school and stuff like that. But like to really write, it came after I heard Curious George. I don't know if you guys remember Curious George,
Yeah.
Constipated Monk.
Yeah. That's
But
family.
yeah, no question. So when I heard him rhyme on I think it was Walk Like a Duck, if I'm not mistaken, that he said half Puerto Rican, half Cuban, not Fidel. When I heard that, I was like, all right, this is it. Like I gotta do this. Like I really gotta do it. And I think that was even before Pun came out. Then when Joe brought Pun out, I was already a Joe fan, so when Joe brought Pun out, that was like, man, now he set a bar. So now, it's like hard to try to pass that bar. Nobody's really ever done it, or it's been even close to it. So you have to try to find your own lane. Being a Latin MC, being a Puerto Rican MC from the Bronx, you got to try to find your own way. You know what I mean? And sound your own sound, so you kind of make your own way.
Right. Yeah, and let me ask you, being that you come from the Bronx and you were living out there for a while, how does it feel for someone from the Bronx into hip hop like yourself, as far as trying to be an MC and becoming an MC? How does it feel to be from what they call the birthplace of hip hop? Like, you guys walk around with a little, with your chest poked out a little bit more than somebody from Queens, or you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But all jokes aside, though, how does that feel when you're out there walking around in them streets?
It feels great. I mean, I'm basically, I got a lot of pride. Just throwing the Crotona P name on myself. Period. Like I got a lot of. That's what the P stands for. It's for pride. A lot of people think it stands for Crotona Park, but not Crotona Pride. Because basically, that's what I got from my hood. You know what I mean? And being from the Bronx.
That's what I thought it stood for. I'm not gonna lie.
You thought it stood for Crotona Park, right?
Oh,
yeah. A lot of people think that. Yeah, but it's Crotona Pride. It's Crotona Pride. When I was younger in my hood, I was pretty much like one of the only dudes in my hood when I first started rapping. So a lot of the older cats, took a liking to me, and I became like pretty much the pride of that little block. You know what I mean? 179, and we basically all used to hang out in the same schoolyard, and you had cats from different hoods. They used to all come to the schoolyard, and the schoolyard was like right in front of my building. So it's like that's my youth was just that. a lot of growing up and playing stickball, basketball, baseball, softball, everything you could do. And then in the later years is when the hustling started coming in because we started smoking weed and we started drinking and we became a little older minded, so we started trying to find ways to get money, easy ways to get money.
Yes.
Earlier on, what was your creative process getting into writing and music? Did you have to wait for the beat, or were you the kind of MC that was always writing in his pad without the music?
I'm gonna be 100% honest with you because I just had this conversation with somebody earlier, right? Um, I used to when I first started rhyming, right? I used to rely a lot on flow. I used to rely a lot on flow, so a lot of it was based on the beat and making sure that I landed in pocket, like I heard other rappers land in pocket. But I was doing that and I was getting away with it for a little minute because I was sounding dope to the beat. And then there's one cat in my high school in Smith. He was like, "All right, yo, turn off the beat. You know what I'm saying? Go a cappella." And I started spitting, and Deuce was like, "Yo, he got flow, man, but he ain't really saying nothing." So when I heard that I was like, "Oh, that shit lit a fire underneath me." I was like, "Nah, now I gotta find out what they mean by I ain't saying nothing." So I started listening to a lot of different artists, and I started started picking up on the Nas's and the Bigs and different. And I'm like, all right, cool. Now I see where they coming from. You know what I mean? What they talking about? Like even before that, even like Ghetto Boys with Mind Playing Tricks on Me and stuff like that. Like that, it was big in New York, for like when that came out. So like a lot of that stuff just made me understand that okay, I got to take it in a more thoughtful manner when it comes to writing. Like I got to talk more about my life and what I go through and stuff like that. And sometimes that shit wasn't the easiest. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to curse, but sometimes that wasn't the easiest. You know what I mean? To like put your life out there, especially like trying to come out and trying to make a name for yourself as a rapper. And it's like you trying to be honest and talk about the stuff you're going through. At the time, some of it wasn't like nothing to glamorize. It wasn't nothing. It wasn't like I wasn't Coogee Rap. I wasn't this big killer kingpin drug dealer. I was doing none of that. So it's like you trying to talk about what you're doing, and it's like you got to find creative ways to get people to like that. But then as time went on and you started, getting involved in different things, and you started adding that element to whatever you spoke about.
Right. When you started out, were you in a group or were you doing a solo thing?
Yeah. I first started rapping like writing like raps by myself, obviously. But then um I got with this dude named 11. His name is 11 now. But his name was K Smooth back then.
Okay.
And he basically heard that I was rapping on the block because he lived like maybe like a block away. He heard that I was rapping, so he came to the block and asked me to spit for him, and I did. And then he said, "Yo, I got this little studio. It's like a makeshift studio in my crib, but we could record something if you want to record something." So I was like, "All right, cool." So I went to his crib and we started like putting down ideas and stuff. But he really taught me like how to count bars and how to like write hooks and how to format a song. Like I didn't know how to do none of that. Like I just used to go on for days. I rap and just go on for days. I never knew that I had to stop at no point and do a chorus and all that. You know what I mean? So I'm sorry, I lost track of it. What was the question? Bring me back.
Basically group, solo. What you
Group,
start
yes,
out?
yes, yes. I got down with him, and then with him, I got down with his crew, which was Lyrical Terrorists. You know what I mean? That was the name of the crew. It was about maybe 5 or 6 of us, and we had a couple of situations that we had a management deal, and we had like a lot of like we did a lot of shows. We did the African Street Festival one time. Like we did a lot of stuff when we were really young in that crew. But then after that, like he had gotten like a little situation with Atlantic, and they were interested and they wanted to hear something from us, but I don't know exactly what happened with that whole situation. It just never turned out to be anything. But yeah, that was pretty much my first experience. Was coming out by myself like for a little bit of time, but then I joined a crew. You know what I mean? But I was always like kind of doing my own solo thing in the crew. You know?
Can you give us a timeline about what time this was all about?
Oh man, I'm dating myself big time. But yeah, like maybe like early '90s. You know what I mean? Early '90s
Okay.
to now.
Right.
Yeah. At
But
what point? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
no, go ahead, go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just gonna say. At what point did you realize, like, you know what? I've found my pocket. I found my style, my flow. Was it through your friends or hitting ciphers? But at what point did you realize like, okay, I got it. Like this is it. I'm in my own zone.
Um, I think it started to really happen. like I could say before I came up to Rochester, when I recorded my first solo project. Even before that, when I was doing the crew stuff, I always felt like I was in pocket. But like to like actually like trying to get a solo career popping, it was really like when I did my first solo project, and I would say maybe in the 2000s. You know what I mean? Like
Okay.
maybe like that's when I did my first solo project, and I let that linger for a minute. You know what I mean? I just did that one, and I ain't really record no more projects and do anything. I would do little features for other people's songs, stuff like that around the hood, but I ain't really do no more projects after that one. You know,
Mm.
because I felt like I put a lot into it, and I felt like it didn't resonate. You know what I mean at the time. But the funny thing about it is, I talk to people today. I got that album out on streaming sites now. It's called It's The Expression.
Mhm.
And I speak to people now about that project that I gave that project 2 years ago on CD when we were giving people CDs. And they tell me the funny thing about it is that they listen to it now. They never listened to it back then, but they listen to it now, and they say they understand how dope it is even to this day. Like it still sounds like I might have done it a year or two ago. It
Right,
just
right.
sounds still like what I do today. So I'm kind of glad that it had that value, that staying value. But you know, at the time, you know, you wanted it to resonate more.
Right, right, right. So between, because you said before that around the early '90s, mid '90s is when you were doing with the crew, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
The
between
solo.
that, right,
Mm-hmm.
and then between that time to 2000, what were you doing in between that time?
Not taking music seriously.
Mm.
Not taking music seriously. I was just out there in the hood trying to be a fake drug dealer. You know what I mean? Trying to sell weed, trying to get into selling a little bit of coke, a couple grams here and there. You know, doing stupid stuff that at the time I thought were cool things. You know what I mean? Or I felt like I wanted to do at the time, and I felt like I wanted to make a little bit more money than what I was making on the side from doing jobs. So it was a lot of that. You know what I mean? A lot of
Right, right.
working, and but like when it came to rap, it was like it was people knew I rapped in the block, and people like any cipher, I'll jump in a cipher quick, whatever. But I wasn't taking music seriously after that until I moved up to Rochester. When I moved up to Rochester, I came here with that album, and I put it in. I put it. It had a couple of like local spots that had like CDs they would sell. So I pressed a bunch of them up and I put them in there. And when I went back like a year later, they were most of them were gone. There was only like two of them left. But you know, I was already starting to mix with different people in Rochester. Like I started to go to the scenes. Like they had a place here called Dublin that shut down. That I kind of caught the tail end of that, and that was like a real historic thing here in Rochester.
Mm.
Like the Dublin Underground, and you know they had like I hear about stuff. I'm still learning to this day about so many things that the history of Rochester before I even got here. But I've been like real, you know, I got a lot of love for the local scene. The local scene embraced me big time. You know, like a lot of being here almost 12 years, like they consider me a Rochesterian. You know what I mean?
Right, right, right. So what was it that made you say, you know what, let me leave this stuff, let me leave the street stuff alone and get back to the music? What inspired you to get back to it?
Just coming up here, and because I came up here to make a change. I came up here to stop doing the hustling and stop doing
Okay.
all that. My daughter was getting a little older. Her moms had gotten with this dude, and they were moving to like to a further part of town, and it was gonna be hard for me to see her. So I just said, you know what, I'm just gonna come up to. My man came actually. I'm gonna be honest with you. My man came from Rochester to visit. His name is Sonny. He came to visit to the Bronx. When he came to visit, I was doing my little coke situation. He came into the crib. He saw what was there. He felt uncomfortable. Told me, "Yo, let's get out of here. Let's go around the block. I want to talk to you." So we start talking. He tells me, "Yo, come up to Rochester. Give it a shot. You know, you up here. You in your 30s already, bro. This is not a good look. You're gonna either end up getting shot or you're gonna go to jail. Just come up here. See if you like it. You know, I get you a job where I work at for a little minute until you know settle in or whatever, and then you do what you want to do. But just get the fuck out the Bronx because you're getting too old for this shit." So I said, you know, this is what I do. This is where I want to stay. Then we walked all around the school because the spot where I was hustling, I was right in front of a public school, bro. It's like a little basement in front of a public school. We walked around it. When we came back around, there was a shootout right in front of the spot. Some
Oof.
15-year-old kid, a 15-year-old kid named Hurricane got shot up, and they paralyzed him. He's paralyzed to this day. So when he saw that, he was like, "Yo, June," because that's what they call me. My family called me June. He was like, "Yo, June, you gotta come up to the Rock and give it a shot, girl. Like you gotta get out of here." So I said, "You know what? I promise you, I'll come up the next month. I'll come up for a weekend and see how it is. So I came up for a weekend. I liked it, but I came back to the Bronx. And then something told me like, yo, you ain't doing nothing out here, bro. Just go up there and see what happens. So I came up here, and I lived with him for like a baby, like about a month. I met my shorty, and I've been with her for like 12 years now. You know what I mean? So like it was once I got up here and I started living with her, I got my own little like recording setup, so I could start recording myself. And once I started doing that, it was all down. It was all like uphill from there. You know what I mean? Like I just kept going.
All right. You said his name was Sonny?
Yeah.
Yeah. Shout out to Sonny then, man. Good advice and being there at the right time too.
Yeah, no question, no question. We ain't on the best terms right now, but I always got love for him. You know what I mean? I always got love for him, regardless of whether we talk or not. Sometimes you got to separate from people just to get peace of mind for a while. You know what I mean? So, but I'm always be appreciative for the fact that he gave me a chance to come up here and change my life. You know what I mean? Like it's something that goes without saying. You know what I mean?
We're able to talk to you right now, so that's dope.
Yeah, no question, no question. Thanks to him. So salute and peace to him.
Well.
Was BX Expression your first time on wax?
My first, not on wax, but like my first time on CD and stuff like that. My first time on wax. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, not per se, vinyl, but being pressed up. That was your first time?
That was my first time doing like my own thing and pressing it up. Yeah.
Okay. What kind of reaction did you get initially? I know you said now people are gravitating toward it here lately, but back then, what kind of reception did you receive when it dropped?
Not much. Not much, to be honest with you. It felt like there was no SoundCloud, there was no MySpace, there was no Facebook, there was none of that when I dropped it. You know what I mean? It's word of mouth in the blocks, and we giving CDs to people, trying to go to Times Square and sell CDs to people, hoping somebody will pass by and grab your CD, and stuff like that. You know what I mean?
Right. What was
so
the?
There wasn't,
go ahead.
Mm-hmm. There wasn't much of a reception.
What was the Recover and Has Been project?
That was the album right after. That's the one the first project that I dropped here in Rochester was the Recover and Has Been.
Okay.
Well, actually, I dropped like a mixtape before that. I say mixtape because it wasn't like, I don't consider it an album, but it was all original beats. But yeah, I did a Road to Recovery. I dropped that first, and then I did the Recover and Has Been project right after that, like a month or two after that.
Okay, dope. Around this time, music-wise, what kind of dues are you paying? Like shows, are you doing to get your name out there? Are you doing any shows?
At that time, I got down with this crew from Rochester named Hex Nation, and that's the family, you know what I'm saying? And they basically, the leader of the crew, Schizo Flows, he put me on, and he showed me how to get money digitally making music. Like he started putting me on to the TuneCore and then the Distro Kid and showing me how to do it the right way so I could actually start making some kind of income from it. So I owe everything I learned from that point forward from him. He taught me everything.
Right. We're going to run through your discography real quick. Just give us some of your best memories and maybe something you learned from each project. Was next PX in 2018?
No. After the Recover and Has Been project, I dropped AARP, which is on Bandcamp only, exclusively on Bandcamp right now. I had too many issues with that album on streaming sites and stuff like that, so I basically put it on Bandcamp. Anybody that wants to purchase, that's one of my favorite albums. And that was completely produced by the first guy that taught me how to write bars and count hooks and all that. Count hooks and write bars and all that shit. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was by him. It was by him. He basically produced the whole project. We got back once I moved to Rochester. He started seeing my name circulating online a lot, like rapping. He said, "Yo, let's get back together and let's do a project. I'll produce the whole project, and you do the rapping and get your features or whatever you want to do." So he produced that one. So AARP is after that one. PX was after that.
Okay, 2018. What do you remember most about PX?
What I remember most about PX, I don't know. I think I put a lot of I put a lot of like personal stuff into that album. Like a lot of what I was going through and feeling at the moment. there's a song called "I'm Sorry" where I'm basically talking to my kids and my stepkids. Basically, telling my kid that I'm sorry if I haven't been there enough for her, and because I've been giving to another four who I've been raising here in Rochester, and my daughter was in New York City. It was like basically like my apology to my daughter, and then my apology to my stepkids if I ever did anything while raising them to make them feel like some kind of way. So it was just like it was a lot of like personal stuff on that album. Yeah.
Right. Very personable. Sounds like.
hmm
Was next MVP with Volatile 2019?
I think so. After PX, yes, after PX was MVP with Volatile, another one of my favorite albums. Volatile is a very, very, very talented MC producer from Rochester, New York, and he heard PX and asked me to perform at a showcase that he used to throw regularly over here at a place called the Buddha Pub. And once I performed, he came to me and brought up the idea to record a full project with me, and it was like it was easy, brother. It was the easy one of the easiest processes ever working with that man. And not only was did he bring dope beats to the table, he allowed me to be a part of the production process by bringing samples and ideas to the table for a couple songs. So that was a real pretty dope experience working with Bob.
Very dope. 2020, our lives were changed when Corona struck. You've still managed to sneak in African in that year. How did life change for you, and what inspired African?
African, to be honest, what I mean at the time with COVID, it was crazy for everybody. Everything that was going on. It was in the beginning, it was just bodies dropping everywhere, and everybody was terrified of even seeing or speaking to anybody because you didn't know if you were going to end up in the same predicament. It was crazy. But African came from me trying. Or I had a project that I'm coming out with soon called the after this Manzoo project. It's another project called the Imperfect Quartier. I've been working on that project for a few years now. Not actually the recording. I've been got the production, but the recording process is what I just recently started doing, maybe like last year. But that that particular project was supposed to come out. I was supposed to start doing it, but Pablo Brown sent me I think an inbox through Messenger or something like that, and he said he wanted me to hear something. He heard me. He heard a song of mine called "Force Mine," which I pay attention to that because a lot of times people hit you online and they never heard you a day ever. They just want you to buy their production or stuff like that, and they don't care nothing about what you rap about. They just want you to buy their beat. But Pablo Brown basically told me what he heard and the video that he saw and why he wanted to work with me. So I said, all right, just send the beat and let me check out a few beats and I'll let you know if I like him. So he sent the thing like 2 beats or 3 beats, and I liked them. And as soon as I heard one of them, I started writing to it, and then I recorded it and shot it to him. And his enthusiasm was what, because he's from South Africa, so his enthusiasm was what really got me like my juices pumping. Like, yo, let's go, let's do this. You know what I mean? Like, and what I loved about that album was, um, yes, he samples. Yes, he's a typical producer like the samples and stuff like that, but there's a certain clarity to his music, a certain like crispiness, like cleanness, you know what I mean, to his beats, like that I haven't heard from a lot of producers out here in the States. He does like a lot of samples, but they sound really, really clean. You know what I mean? That's what made African sound the way that it did, in my opinion.
Right. Very dope.
Mhm.
2021. You
Oh,
get with.
I'm sorry. Another important thing about it, it's called African, but it's African because being that he's African and I'm Puerto Rican, that's why on the cover you see the A and the F is the African flag, and then Rican is the Puerto Rican flag in the letters. We wanted
Nice,
to
Very
make
dope.
that.
nice,
I
nice.
had to make that clear because the dude who made the album cover, he gets on my ass every time I don't mention him. Salute, make millions who does most of my artwork, and I got nothing but love.
Nice. That's a dope concept, man.
Yeah, no question.
Look,
Absolutely. 2021. Three Kings. Get with
That was the
Manzu
first.
Beats.
Yep. First
M
time
Doc
that
Diego.
and Doc Diego. Yep. First time that I did anything. No, not the first time I did anything on Manzou's beats. It was actually he did an album with M Doc Diego before that called Universal Tongue. And he asked me to be on that album because he had heard me and M Doc do a song called Hustler's Antidote a couple of years back. And I guess he heard it. He liked the way we sounded together. So he asked me to be on the album. M Doc came up to me and asked me to do Tango and Cash. So we knocked that out. That came out dope. We shot a video for it. And he loved the chemistry in the song. He loved the chemistry in the video. So he was like, "Yo, you guys should do a whole project. Like, what do you think about it?" And I was hell bent on some no. I'm not doing no more group projects. I've done it before, and it's a headache sometimes. You know what I mean? Like dealing with a bunch of different people, opinions, and it's just a headache sometimes. So I didn't want to do it. But when I said, all right, Tango and Cash was so easy to do with M Doc, and so was Hustler's Antidote. I said, all right, if y'all want to do an EP, we could do an EP. We could do that. So we started working on it, and man, it was a great experience, man. Like just working with M Doc, who's a real another talented underground MC, was killing it out here right now in the underground scene. Him, DBTZ of Manzou Beats, man. He's just like a real cinematic producer. So everything he gave us was like a movie, pretty much. Like so, I just basically started. I let M Doc do his three. I did my three, and we brought it to the table. They added the intro, and that was it. We called it a day.
Right. Which brings us to Killer Instinct, recent released with Manzou Beats. Take us back to that recording process, some of the features, production. Tell us all about this particular project.
Well, this is my latest project out right now everywhere on all streaming platforms. Um, and it's produced completely by DBTZ of Manzou Beats. This was the album that he asked me to do with him after Three Kings, being that he had solo projects from M Doc. He wanted to do a solo project with me and him. And I said, definitely so, because working Three Kings was so dope that I said, I wanted to see what he could bring to the table for me in a different pocket when it came to BPM and stuff like that. Because I move kind of at a faster pace than what you heard on Three Kings. Like Three Kings was a little challenging for me. It was more like I gotta adapt to this production. You know? But when it came down to Killer Instinct, he sent me what I asked him for, the BPM range that I asked him in between, and he started sending me a bunch of different things. I picked the ones that I wanted, and they were all like kind of foundations. You know what I mean? They weren't like full production yet. So I basically picked the foundations that I liked, and then once I recorded what I recorded, he just started working his magic. You know what I mean? And just put like everything to it. And then the album was pretty much a quick process. The recording of it, it took pretty much like a month, if I'm not mistaken, to record everything for myself, for me to finish everything. And then I had to wait for a couple features to come back. But on the album, we got people like Street the Villain, who's also killing it in the underground right now. Emerge the MC, Kali from San Diego. We got Jay Hustle from Rochester, New York, who's also killing it in the underground. M. Doc Diego, for sure, I wasn't going to do the album without him. Definitely had to put him on the project, being that he connected the dots with me too. And we got DJ Cut Supreme, legendary DJ. We got him on there, and we also got Tone Spliff, who's been on everybody's joints lately. You know what I'm saying? He's, I'm really proud of this project, and we put it together. We call it Killer Instinct the movie because it's put together somewhat like a movie. Like if you put it you can let it rock from beginning to end, and it'll just play scenes. And I've heard this from like various people, like that's how I felt. But then when I started getting feedback from people and they started telling me that, it just made me feel even better about it.
Yo, what about who's Jay Fliz?
I'm so sorry. Jay Fliz and Slick Jack, they also on the project. City of Sins, definitely. Yo, Slick Jack, man, that's one of my favorite rappers right now. Like that I listen to. He's one of my favorites right now. He's from Toronto, Canada. And Jay Fliz, he's also been killing it in the underground. He's been on Shade 45, Rappers Out of Control, all that. You know what I mean? And he's from Boston. I think, if I'm not mistaken, Massachusetts.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Dope. Dope.
Very dope. The album's been out for about a month now. What kind of reception, feedback you've been getting? I know you said people say it plays seamlessly like Killer Instinct, but what other comments, feedback you've been getting for this project?
I've been getting a lot of dope feedback, man. A lot of people just telling me they love the production choices. They love a lot of the choruses. They love the fact that I brought DJs into the mix and let them, do scratches on cuts, which a lot of times be missing in music these days. You know what I mean? So they love that. They love the fact that I did a joint like Snapped where I talk about it's like a whole story about how a kid is pretty much a kid is pretty much subjected to see like his mom cheating on his military dad every time he goes away, and then he basically comes back, and when he comes back, the kid basically tries to tell the dad what's going on, but because he's kind of small and has like no power, he basically gets beat the hell up every time his dad goes back to the military by his mom for opening his mouth, and it gets to a point where he builds up so much resentment inside that he ends up going to school and getting in a lot of problems. And when he's actually gets to the point where he's brought into the office, and when he sees the teacher, he sees the teacher's face, and he sees his mother's face, and he ends up killing the teacher. So just the storyline alone, that's like lacking in a lot of music today too. Is storytelling. A lot of people show me a lot of love for that. And then the last track on the album, which is No hay segunda vez, which is a song that's done completely in Spanish, you know what I mean? Which is my second language, So the fact that I was able to do that, and a lot of people that listen to Spanish music gave me props on that. Like, yo, you did a great job, like verbally on it, with the way you did it. So I'm just real proud of that too. These were accomplishments that I had recorded one song in Spanish years ago, just so my mom could hear it. You know what I mean? But it wasn't like now at this point. It's like, no, I don't want my mom to hear that one. The new one. I don't want my mother to hear the new one. Nah.
Right.
But yeah, but it's like, but I'm just happy that I was able to, try different pockets and different things. You know what I mean? When it came to this project, and the fact that everybody that was on the project was so like supportive. You know what I mean? When it came to not only the recording process, but also like the promotional process. You know what I mean? Like a lot of rappers showed nothing but love, man. People like Zagnif, Nori, Indigo Phoenix. We had Blast Blick, Asilo Dubai, Penny Piffwise, like Fifth Pennywise. I mean, and like so many people like that. That I was just like, it just made me feel good. The fact that so many people were supportive and made these promo videos for me, so I could put out before the album dropped. Like them asking me, like, yo, when the album dropping. That showed, it showed that I got a lot of love and a lot of support I hear from my peers, which means more than anything. And it's not just Rochester peers, like they everywhere, man. They in New York, they Ithaca, Toronto, you know what I'm saying, the UK, we got everywhere, man. People just showing love all over the place, which is another great feeling about being part of this digital world. Like a lot of people make the comment like, oh, would you have been able to survive when there was no digital world? Maybe not. But the fact is that there is a digital world that we're taking advantage of, and we're going to continue to take advantage of. You know what I mean?
Of course, of course. So speaking of, have you ever thought of doing a project where it's 100% in Spanish?
I'm thinking about it more and more now because people have made that comment, and I just got a review the other day by Sci Life Radio about the album, and one of the things they mentioned in the review was that they could see me doing a whole Spanish project with Man after listening to that joint. So
yeah, that would be kind of interesting, man. You know what I mean? Trying to also, try and reach other countries, you know what I mean? And break into like a whole different, I guess you could say somewhat of a different market, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, it was still a boom bap joint, but it was in Spanish, and they got that out there in PR too. They got boom bap rappers too. Like they not all reggaeton and drill and all that. They got boom bap rappers too. So shout to people like Residente from Calle 13, people like that. Like I'm not too in tune with the Latin market like that, like with all the different rapper names, but I'm learning more now. Because I work for, like I told you before, I work for a gun manufacturing company. So I work with a couple younger cats that's from PR. So we end up going to lunch together. They put me on to like a lot of the stuff they're listening to. So I'm getting a different gist of things. You know what I mean? When it comes to music.
Yeah. I'm not like super familiar with all of them either, but I am in tune to the point where I know it. There's a big, it's a big movement and a big
Yeah,
market out there too. So something to think
yeah,
about. You know what I mean?
yeah, definitely. I mean,
Oh,
something that, what to be completely honest with you, I don't want to rat you out, man, Zoo, because I'm not about ratting. But man, Zoo didn't want me to do the whole joint in Spanish. I'm letting y'all know right now. He told me, nah, maybe do a little Spanglish here and there, so we don't like people don't get completely lost. I said no, not for
man.
this one. This is the last joint on the project, and I'm doing it fully in Spanish, and that's it. And
Yeah.
he understood. He understood it, and once he heard it, he was like, "Yeah, that's dope, bro. That's dope." He was like, "I like it." And I told him I'm not the first person to do it. I heard Crime Apple do it. I heard a couple different people do it. So I'm
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
yeah, I'm just adding my flavor to it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure, for sure. And if you could do it, why not? And again, back to it ties in with marketing as well because you might attract a fan that maybe doesn't even know English that well. You give him a song, and then it leads him to like, oh, this shit is dope. Let me check out his other stuff anyway. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It's if you could freak it, why
Mm-hmm.
not?
Yeah, hell yeah, hell yeah. Like this is the first time I did it, and it came out pretty cool. I just did a feature for Slick Jack on his new project with King Bandolero, and the joint that I did for him, I'm also is kind of Spanglish. It's kind of I'm throwing joints in Spanish and in English, and I'm mixing it up. So
Dope,
I
dope.
gave I gave I gave K I gave the No Face crew and King Bandolero what Manzu wanted me to do, which was Spanglish. You know what I mean?
Right,
just
right.
to just to show just to show him I could do that too.
No doubt.
For the people that want to know, where can they find Killer Instinct at?
Everywhere. Go any digital platform. You go to Spotify, Tidal, Shazam, whatever they got music at digitally, you can find it. Definitely, you can find it on Bandcamp also on Manzu Beats page. Also, you can find it there. It's not on my page because this one we putting it out through his page on Bandcamp. But you can also buy it on iTunes. Anywhere they sell digital music, you can buy it. And the vinyl's coming soon. The vinyl, we already got that set up. That should be probably within the next month or two. It should be. I think the pre-sales are already ready, though. I think you can actually order it if I'm not mistaken. All that information you can find it on Manzu Beats on DBTZ of Manzu Beats Instagram page. On his bio, you can find all that information if you want to get the vinyl or anything. CDs, I guess, if you want to purchase those on Bandcamp, you could do that. I don't press those anymore, you know what I mean? Because those don't sell like that in the streets, you know what I mean? But if you want to buy it digitally and you want an actual CD, I think you can purchase it on Bandcamp if I'm not mistaken.
Right. After Killer Instinct does its thing, what can we expect from Crotona P in the future?
Well, the plan is for the Imperfect Courtier, which is Crotona P presents the Imperfect Courtier, which is a fully featured project with everybody you could think of that I've met in the underground. You know what I mean? That I build with, that I show love to, that we haven't recorded yet. A lot of songs are gonna be on that. This whole project, it's gonna be no solo joints for me on that project. I'm just bringing all my homies on this one. You know what I mean? And after that, I got a couple projects, probably EPs. I'm looking to drop one with Skinny Bones, the Godfather. Um, Another one with Kizza G. I think if I'm not mistaken, it might be from the UK if I'm not mistaken. The Kizza G joined the Skinny Bones, the Godfather joint. We're doing a Three Kings Part 2 with me, M. Doc Diego, and Manzu Beast. We're doing that. I just got the production for that the other day, so be on the lookout for that too. And a few. I got a few more. Yaya production. Also, we doing something. We working on something. It's a couple, man. I got so much on the plate right now that
Right.
I lose. I smoke a lot, bro.
It's all
Sorry.
good. Before we get out of here, can you shout out your social media and where we can keep up with Crotona P moving into the future?
Well, if you want to look me up on Instagram, it's Crotona PBX. On Facebook, the same thing, Crotona PBX. If you want to hit me on the email, it's crotonap@gmail.com. I don't do TikTok like that. I don't do Twitter. I don't do any of that stuff. So if you want to hit me basically about music and it's about business And don't waste my time. Please hit me on Instagram at Crotona PBX, and we can talk about any business you want to talk about. You know what I mean? And I'm a reasonable dude, man. I'm not trying to get rich off of this. I just want to be able to buy my kids a gallon of milk every now and again. You know what I mean?
No doubt. Very good dude. Big shout out to Jerry Graham for connecting us. We want to thank you for everything you're doing for the culture, everything that you've done for the culture. I'll pass it off to E.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, no. Just like Sincere said, man, on behalf of Changing Other Hip Hop Guards, we appreciate everything you've been doing. Continued success, man. Let us know whenever you have anything else coming out. We'll be glad to help push that on our platform. And yeah, man, all the best to you.
Salute.
No question, man. And thank you guys for everything, man, for having me on your platform. And homeboy, I see that Yankee hat. You see where we rocking, right?
Yes,
They're
sir.
playing
Yes,
the Mets.
sir.
They're playing the
They're
Mets
playing.
tonight, and I'm a Mets fan too, though. Don't get it twisted. I love the Yankees in the Mets, but I'm a BX bred dude. You know what I mean?
Yes,
So
sir.
Yankees first. You know what I mean?
That's right. I'm only a Met fan if the Yankees are not in it at all. That's
There
the
you
only
go.
time.
All right. Now we talking.
Yeah, man. Yo, it's been a
All right,
pleasure,
man.
brother.
Thank y'all.
Thank
y'all.
you.
Salute.
Salute.
Peace.